so I've been working on the Corvette all day, just kind of picking at all the wiring that I need to get, like a bunch of wires I need to get rid of, and you know, going through the car. We got a lot of stuff to do, and I'm just trying to pluck away a little at a time. So I've spent most of my day getting the harness simplified so I can get the Holly to work. So let's just jump into it. So not much has changed on this side other than fender coming off. But it almost looks like we're parting it out from this side. Yeah, she's in rough shape right now. So if you remember, this rocker panel was busted all up. And last year, I actually bought this from my guys at Vette Pros in Charlotte. They part out Corvettes. And this is the exact same color. And they are masters at getting these things off without messing them up. They told me their secret of how to get them off with an induction heater. I bought a cheap one, and I started to get that thing off without busting it up anymore because I just wanted to be able to see if I could do it. And I almost had it until I got to this section in here. The one I bought wasn't strong enough to heat. So basically what happens is you use an induction heater, it heats the metal up, makes the glue get hot without actually getting the fiberglass hot. Pops right off. As you can see here, I got it hot enough to where the glue just popped right off the metal. But a couple of areas here did not want to come off. So I just went ahead and kind of cut it up into sections and got it off. And now what I'll be able to do is just self-tap this one back on. If I ever bust another one, I'll just be able to buy one, pop it on, and we're done. But they only had one of those colors in stock. And I do plan on changing the color of the car one year, just not this year. This one, the trailer caught it up here and ripped a big chunk off. So I might try to do some fiberglass work to get that piece back on. Don't know yet. But right now, my main focus is mechanically getting this thing done. See, I got the Holly harness. I've been going over everything and picking through. Our Holly digital dash come in. I went and got the 7-inch. And there's a company, I think, called Mako Motorsports. They make a bezel that pops in. You get your stock cluster pulled out, and the bezel is made for all different ECUs and digital dashes like I have. But pretty much they make a dash kit for almost any ECU. So they made one for the 7-inch Holly. It was pretty pricey, but it's gonna save me time and keep me from having to I'm kind of picky with how stuff's set up, and I just don't want to like put a digital dash just in here anywhere looking like shit. So it's gonna be nice to be able to just pop a piece in. Digital dash is gonna be built into it and it's gonna look nice. So there are companies that do 3D printed bezels to hold digital dashes and stuff, but I'm honestly not a fan of seeing all the printed lines. I think the printed stuff is really cool, but as far as aesthetics, I do not like the way it looks. So what Mako Motorsports does is they do pretty much like this. It's like a molded ABS plastic. It looks nice and smooth, almost like OEM. So I'm excited. I might even pop a picture of what it looks like. But I'm really excited to get my hands on that and get that portion done. But yeah, this thing is looking rough. So I took the rear apart. For one, I need to get the back bumper off. Two, you had to take this quarter panel off to get that rocker panel off. But I got true Focus Fab bash bars. I got one in the rear. It's gonna have a jack point coming out in the center. So I gotta get this big piece of foam off and get that on. Because last year I hit a tire and kind of pushed on this a little bit. But the true Focus Fab kind of comes around right here. And it's not made out of too strong of a metal to where it's gonna tear my frame up if I ever hit it too hard. And when I was at Piedmont at the end of the year, I hit a big tire right here. Luckily, it didn't do no damage, but it could have been way worse. So I'm kind of digging having a bar that comes around and try to protect the quarter as much as possible. As far as engine bay goes, haven't really done a whole lot. I gotta get the hood off so I can get up front, mount my AccuSump, get my oil cooler lines run. But I do have a front bash bar from True Focus Fab also, and I want to get that on, and I want to do something different with the oil cooler. Last year, actually I'll show you this too. I still have my factory air dam, but I do not have a factory radiator support. That's because last year I built my own pretty much radiator bar. Ties into the frame. I plated the frame up here so it's super strong. And you can see, I can actually jack the car up with that. And if you look, you can see I've kind of scraped it up. So what I've done was I built that, and then I wanted to run the factory air dam because these cars are notorious for running hot. So what I've done was I took and bent up another tube right here, and I used the factory air dam metal bracket, and I just put a bolt nut and a bolt here and on the other side, and I use hose clamps to attach it to the bar in 2 spots. That way, if I ever hit something hard enough, which you can see is bent right here, it just kind of rotates down and doesn't tear anything up. Because normally I have this thing rotated to where this right here is sitting under the radiator, and it just scoops all the air right into the radiator, and it works great. I look at this as a consumable, kind of like welding wire. Like, it's a consumable. I expect to use it up and maybe have to replace it. That's why I made it so easy to come on and off. 2 hose clamps and it pops right off. And it honestly made a difference on the car, because I didn't run it for the first year, and then last year I run it all year, and the car never overheated one time. So I'm super excited about that. But I overbuilt my oil cooler. Pretty much the Corvette has a big foam piece here, and it actually stuck out past it. So I cut out around it, and then I built this mount to hold everything. I mean, it's solid. A little too solid, to be honest. But the line's coming down. So I let my buddy Tevin drive, and he kind of went off track and hit a cone, and it hit my oil cooler line and bent it. It didn't break it off or anything, but it did make the fitting come loose. And it started spraying. You can see where oil and dust started sticking to that. So I got to do something better with that. That's why I got the True Focus Fab Bash bars. I'm gonna try to maybe do a shorter cooler, maybe half of this, but use 2 of them and stack them under the factory bumper support to where they'll be half this size, but they'll be tucked back and under a little ways. And I even thought about maybe trying to stack them in here, turn them where they can catch air from the air dam also. I'm still not 100% on what I'm gonna do oil cooler wise, but I wanna get the bash bar put on and kind of see where it's located and go from there on that part. But I have been pulling wires out of this thing all day. So basically with the Corvette, you got one main harness that goes to the back that feeds everything, as far as fuel pumps, fuel level, speed sensor, reverse lockout. Your tail light harness is all run through this one harness. So with this, looks like a transmission harness plug. It plugs in down there, and I got a bunch of inputs for the Holly now. So like, I got vehicle speed sensor, reverse lockout, my actual fuel level sensor. That's gonna be a mess to deal with, but I'm gonna try. I'm still gonna use the reverse lockout. I'm gonna try to use it with the Holly. But yeah, and then as far as the fuse box wiring goes, I've gotten rid of probably 50, 60 wires I didn't need and simplified it. I got my starter wire, starter solenoid wire, got my cooling fan wire, got my, this is what's gonna actually turn the Holly on with the key. So when I turn the key on, this wire here gets power, and when I turn it to crank, it still keeps power to keep the Holly on, which is what it needs. So that's gonna go to the Holly system, and this is like a ground input to turn the cooling fan relays on. So I've spent a lot of time figuring all this out today, going through diagrams, and that was a bunch of the wire I pulled out of the fuse box. Got my new angle kit ordered also. I just ordered it yesterday, so it's gonna be coming in, and we'll talk more about that. And I didn't go with FDF this time, and I will discuss that once we get the kit and start showing you why. Got the 6.2 under here, took apart. Just like I said, I'm waiting on parts for that, which, you look over there, got my custom tick performance cam. Not sure if I said in the last video, my buddy Dustin that works at Tick Performance, he spec'd me out a cam. I gave him all the specs of my motor, what I'm doing with the car, and he spec'd me out a cam that's supposed to be perfect. It's a little smaller than I thought it would be, but I overcammed my car last year. I had like no power down low. It was all up top power, which kind of killed me if I needed to transition at a slower speed. And so this year I'm trying to get my shit together. So at some point, I'm gonna take the LS1 apart that come out of the car and just see what was ticking. Cause I mean, it run fine, had good oil pressure, but it started to develop a tick. And when I pulled the oil plug, it did have a little bit of metal sediment on it, which doesn't scare me. I'm thinking I got a lifter messing up or lifter wheel. I was not very nice to this motor this year. So hopefully nothing's too bad with the bottom end. And maybe it's just a cam or lifters starting to come apart, which would be perfect because I would like to change the cam and put this in something else. I really wanted to rip every wire out of this car from the tail lights forward and get rid of everything I didn't need and do like a race wires harness. Pretty much that way I can run emergency cutoff, and like all that's electric, do my tail lights through that, headlights, be able to turn the Holly on and off. They make really nice kits. But as far as time goes, I don't have time for all that. So I'm gonna make the stock wiring work for me this year. And next year, I really wanna get rid of the factory fuel pumps and tank because they're absolutely terrible. And I would like to put like a radium fuel cell in the back, but that would require me to build a firewall. So I think if this year the car does good as far as powertrain, and I don't have to touch that next year, which I don't think I should, I'd like to go ahead and do a cage in the car, do a firewall, move the radiator. Oh, well, I don't want to do a radiator in the back. Put a fuel cell in the very back, pretty much get rid of the whole rear tub and just make the quarter panels hang on tube to where the back's fully open, easy to work on. Because right now the diff, the way the floorboard's made, I'll actually show you. The way the floorboard's, or the floor is made in the back, this right here is part of the rear tub, which is this part right here, fiberglass tub that is the actual floor in the car. It hangs down and the diff sits right behind it. So to get the shaft that comes out of the transmission that goes into the diff is so long, the diff backs up and hits that. So to get the diff out, you really got to pull the trans with the diff and then pull the diff off the transmission. So I would like to do something better with that. Just every year, I mean, I love this car to death. So every year I'm just trying to do something else with it and just keep growing the car. Car works great, it's a good drift car. But I think that's gonna be it for now. That's all the updates I have. And as stuff rolls in, once I get a lot done, I'll do another video like this. Usually I do videos showing me working on the car, but I'm pressed for time. 2 months is gonna fly by like crazy. And as much as I like making cool technical videos and stuff, I enjoy myself watching Rambletron videos. We're just talking about what I've done. My buddy Matt Happel from Sloppy Mechanics, he used to do videos like that all the time, and I enjoyed watching them. So, all right, well, I guess that's gonna be it for this one. I appreciate you watching. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and follow along as I build this Vette. So, appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next one.